patience, the
patience
ability to delay gratification.
Absolutely.
Delaying gratification is huge. So many people extract too much from their own business early on or at any stage, and that's hampering your ability to grow, hampering your ability to, the business has got to be first, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to treat this.
Absolutely.
You've got to treat this living thing and this organization as it has to eat first, and your staff and your team do. And people quite often think, oh, great, you're working for yourself, you must be doing really well. You think, well, this business is doing really well. I don't even extract anything from it yet.
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Alan here. And if you don't know me, I'm an entrepreneur based in the UK and I specialize in all things personal finance, entrepreneurship and business. And today we've got Dan Reilly from Rural Analytics, who is the co-founder of the business. And he started this business about 10 years ago now.
Yeah, we're 8 years in now.
8 years in.
Yeah,
wow. Okay. So he's 8 years in. He secured investment from the European Investment Bank and he's essentially scaled that business from 0 to 7 figures in recurring revenue. And recurring is the key factor in this as well, because everyone wants recurring revenue in the business now. So stick around, watch this. If you like my channel as well, please subscribe. I talk all things personal finance and business, as you know. But today we're going to go on Dan's journey and see how we can get on with that. So Dan, hello, welcome.
Al, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you.
Thanks for inviting me on.
We've actually had a coffee before this, by the way, so this isn't just us speaking now, but we've had a quick intro into this already and a quick chat. So how are you? You well?
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. Yeah, it's nice to see you in a formal setting, not just on the paddle court.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know, and I've said this in a couple of videos now, if you've not watched them, we play a lot of paddle together. I've not mentioned that we actually play paddle together, but I play a lot of paddle now. And luckily, Dan got me into that. And
well, it's interesting. It's worth saying. I invited you for your first paddle game.
You did?
Which is only a matter of weeks ago. And then I've played with you you've played 4 games since.
Yeah,
and you're like one of the best players I've seen straight away. So, and big warning to anyone playing racket sports.
I've got an advantage because I played tennis to a decent standard when I was younger. So, but yeah, no, it's very kind of you. I don't feel I'm that good just yet, but I'm an improver. I think that's probably the best way to put it, mate. As we both are. So
that's right.
But listen, we're here to talk about sort of your journey from startup to a 7-figure. Recurring, I keep saying that recurring word because that's so important. Recurring revenue business. So if we can just start, if you can take us back to the start of your journey, what inspired you to start a digital marketing company specializing in pay-per-click, and that's Epic New Media. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the first business. Yeah. So
start with that. Is that all right?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So prior to starting that business, actually, I'd just moved back to the UK. I'd done my undergrad in the United States. Studied out there for 4 years. Studied economics within the business school of a D1 university in Arkansas. Education was paid for out there.
Cool.
By way of a golf scholarship, actually.
Yeah.
Came back to the UK, and then I started within 6 months of being back here. We actually started a pay-per-click and web development business. They were our first specialisms. They were our core competencies in Liverpool. This is January 2010 with my co-founder Ian, who is also my co-founder and business partner in both businesses now in the Rural Analytics business. But yeah, we were sort of 50% projects. Web development in 2010 was still not that it's not a good business now.
So web development, this might be a really stupid question, but so that was literally, was it creating websites, creating apps, or just websites?
Yeah, just web, So essentially we were working with professional services firms, financial services firms, anywhere where a lead was difficult to acquire.
Yeah.
So therefore expensive to acquire.
Yeah.
Therefore valuable.
Yeah.
We wanted to work with those sort of businesses, build a great online presence for them, and then drive the right sort of traffic.
Yeah, sure.
And in those days, for us, it was very much just search and a website that converted. We probably went along a journey of growing that agency. I still have that agency.
Yeah.
Still Liverpool-based agencies with clients just domestically, whereas Rural Analytics has got our biggest territory actually for customers is USA.
Yeah.
But we started to really like recurring revenue element. So we sort of dropped the project side, which was the web design and development bit, and started adding recurring revenue services. It's where we felt as though we could add the most value. So we're talking about managing any sort of paid or biddable media channels.
Okay.
So what
does that mean, biddable media?
Yeah. So most advertising online is kind of works off an auction system.
Yeah. Okay.
As you understand, it's dynamic, isn't it? So whether it's CPM, so cost per 1,000 impressions, or cost per click model, whatever you work off, whether that is Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or, Google was a big one for us. So so the digital agency really was what gave birth to the SaaS business. Okay. So a really typical Genesis story, I think, really for most businesses is you're the first customer. Yeah. So it was scratching our own itch. We were working with Google Analytics to measure the effectiveness of what we were doing for clients. Sure. And we just found as though it was inadequate in certain areas. And since the birth of Ruler Analytics, Google Analytics version 4 is now live, and it gives you even less useful and actionable information than it ever did. So we set about trying to create something that was first party, that was non-bias. Yeah. So not Facebook claiming the conversion, not TikTok claiming the conversion, not Microsoft product like LinkedIn claiming the conversion, not Google claiming the conversion. Trying to understand, demystify, and centralize measurement and marketing measurement, trying to solve that, age-old question of what is working. Let's identify the waste. Yeah. Let's reallocate that wasted budget into new test environments or into areas that we already know there's more headroom in, and trying to increase that return on investment, essentially. Okay.
So that leads us very nicely to, obviously that was the epic side of it. And, I'm going to use the word, I'm going to use this term because I never really understood it when you first said it to me, marketing attribution. I was always like, what does that mean? Because I think for people, if I say the word marketing attribution or the phrase marketing attribution now, people sort of will be like, what does that mean? But it brings us quite nicely onto, from Epic New Media to Ruler. So from what you've just said about sort of measuring. So do you want to just talk through that? So what was sort of the pivotal moment or the event that made you move away? I say move away, I know you still got the business, but come up with the idea of Ruler. What made you pivot as such?
Yeah, so the move was, there was two things simultaneously. Okay. It was we needed this product. Yeah. And it was probably our naivety in I don't think we quite realized how much of a complex data science and software engineering problem this was, an innovation this was going to be. Yeah. 8 years down the line now, we do understand. We've got a lot of heavyweight software engineers on the payroll and data scientists based in the UK, and we have pretty significant payroll. Of course, yeah. But it was, we wanted to solve that problem that Google wasn't solving for us. We knew because we were practitioners.
And do you think these? And I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you think these problems are for all businesses? So anywhere from say a 5-person business to a multinational. Do you think this is a problem across the board?
Yeah, I think the problems exist because even small businesses will ask you, how did you hear about us? Yeah. So it's a human thing to try and understand what is working, what is not. Whether it's a word of mouth piece or a direct mail piece,
whatever it is. Yeah.
I think the problem just compounds and becomes more significant. It's in relative terms as the business's marketing and advertising budget become more significant.
Yes, yeah.
Because when you're looking for those marginal gains of, okay, can we identify 1 or 2% worth of waste, and then have a product that can flag up areas where there is more headroom and opportunity, that becomes in real terms a big difference.
Of course, yeah.
It can become millions of dollars a month, or even for a business of our size
of wastage,
and then if you reallocate that wastage to an area
where it's working,
exactly, then you start to move in a different direction.
Eliminate the wastage, use that extra budget, shall we say, to spend on the areas that are working.
Yeah, so from
the software that you've got,
exactly. So we were thinking about it initially as practitioners, just because we wanted to be able to advertise more effectively, and really spend our clients' budgets. Essentially like it's our own money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So really trying to get bang for buck. But then the biggest use case probably now, or certainly at least 50% of the use case, is either an agency or the department within kind of a mid-market or larger organization.
So someone who's spending a lot of budget on marketing, essentially.
So it's the practitioner using it to do their job better, but more often than not, they're using our product to justify their spend. So it might be the chief marketing officer. Yeah. A typical one is they're trying to justify annual budgets from the CFO or the FD.
Yeah.
And the FD is going to be asking, well, what's working, what's not?
Yeah.
And Google is giving you a bunch of abstract information. Facebook's giving you quite abstract information now. And it's hard to be very definitive. So, we solve two big problems. We help the CMO and the marketing team and department justify their budgets.
Yeah.
And we help the practitioners within those departments be better at the channels that they're managing.
Yeah. So it's to reduce wastage, analyze where it's working.
Yeah.
Which means if you're a big business or even if you're a smaller business, I mean, if I take our business, for example, we have probably our own version. Maybe we could talk about how it could work for us then potentially, but we have our own lead tracker, shall we call it?
Yeah.
Where essentially we have different avenues of leads. So for example, we have people going out face-to-face door knocking essentially. Good team doing that. We measure that. We measure email marketing. We don't do as much Google spend now, but we're looking into potential Instagram again. So we have a lead track and we actually look at that versus target. So essentially your software that you've got can put all that into, all that melting pot into one place and spit out results and go, right, based on the data that's being put into the software, this is where your marketing's working, this is where it's not.
Yeah.
Essentially, it doesn't take a genius, does it? Where it's working, put more money into it, maybe cut it from the
Yeah, so we have two areas for most businesses. So we're kind of working with so large global brands all the way through to kind of mid-market, larger SMEs.
So what's your target? What's your sweet spot as a business? And so who do you target? Who do you want as a customer?
It's everything from you sort of mid-market, let's say nationwide law firm, let's say, that's turning over £40 million, all the way through to, we've got one of the top 4 Swiss watch brands on earth.
Oh, wow.
We've got the largest.
Is that where you got your watch from?
It's actually a different brand, but it's another Swiss brand that use our products. We've got the largest, one of the largest sporting governing bodies globally using the product. We've got some of the world's biggest retailers using the business.
So it's not just, you're not just looking for B2B companies. It's anyone.
It started as B2B, but
it's branched out
since iOS 14, which people who manage advertising spend they'll be familiar with this. Since Apple essentially killed third-party cookies, the direct-to-consumer marketplace has also become a marketplace for us. Right. So we do have e-commerce brands.
Right. Using like Shopify and stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So our target is kind of like it's a bit arbitrary this because things fall outside of this criteria, but we're working with businesses that are turning over sort of 40 million upwards.
Right.
That's a real spot for us because that's, as I say, if they can find a marginal gain in their advertising spend.
Well, yeah.
Then it really
could translate to the bottom line.
That's right,
quite tremendously, really, couldn't it?
That's right.
If they're getting an ROI, or I don't know if you call it a ROAS or whatever metrics they use and you use, but if you've got a return on ad spend of say 7 and you're currently getting 0.5, it's big. It could be big on the bottom line.
So we're doing two things: the marketing attribution piece, which you talked about, which is.
Well, go on, explain that then, because that was something
There's two sides to it. So I talk about heuristic. So what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
So that we can definitively say has happened. So that is based on us tracking impressions and clicks from all of these advertising platforms through to a website, let's say.
Yeah.
And then we've got the predictive element. So this marketing attribution software is what we're known as. And then going forward, people are also seeing us as a marketing mix modeling software, which is quite interesting. That's a data marketing mix modeling is it's a 40-year-old, 50-year-old science within marketing measurement that we're sort of bringing back. So it's a simulation. So essentially you've got two things running parallel. You've got the touch points that happened because there was an impression or click. And then you've got the touch points that there's no way of understanding exactly what happened. So we're talking billboards, radio, print, traditional media.
Yeah.
So we're running, it's called the data science principle or practice called a Markov chain. And we run a certain type of Markov chain, a Monte Carlo Markov chain, which is how people predict the weather.
Yeah.
This is how bookies predict odds.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're taking all the data we've got and everything we know that isn't trackable, click and impression wise, and running a very high paced simulation. So running a simulation, let's say 1 million times to understand the distribution, to say, okay, well, this direct traffic that we're getting to the site, where did it come from?
Yeah.
Because everything in Google Analytics now is, well, so much is allocated to direct. And you're like, well, what am I doing? I'm doing podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm doing ads on YouTube. I'm doing 10 different channels.
Your software can literally track it from the original source. Obviously, the direct source of Google, like I said, it's quite a broad spectrum then, isn't it, from what you're saying?
Yeah, what led to the direct
that's
search.
what I'm saying. So you can literally track it back. Yeah. I don't really want to get into
the depth of the
because I think people who watch this channel probably a bit like me, I haven't got the headspace for it, to be honest with you. But it's good to know that you can literally go from the direct source on Google to YouTube, to podcasts, to LinkedIn, to
so understanding that customer path is what we're doing. Yeah,
that's what you're doing, aren't you?
Yeah, and then we're predicting with as much accuracy as we can the bits that didn't have a digital impression or a digital click. So that's the billboard ad that you ran in New York State versus the billboard you ran in California State, for instance.
Well, before we go on to scaling the business, because I think that's obviously what a lot of people will want to know, how you've scaled it from 0 to 7 figures in recurring revenue.
Yeah.
What has, if you've got to, let's actually rephrase the question. So if you're speaking to someone now potentially wants to look at the marketing attribution or wants to know where the lead's coming from, sort of what would you say to them? Where would they need to start? Potentially coming to you as well. It's a bit of a shameless plug here, of course it is, but what do they need to look at? So let's give it a real life scenario. Let's use me actually. So,
well, the first two, sorry to interrupt you. The first two places to start are still, Google Analytics. Make sure that is set up correctly.
Yeah.
By the events and conversions are set up correctly. Mm. It's on every page of your website, making sure that you've got, a practitioner is talking you through how to pull, as much actionable.
And who, you've used the word practitioner a few times. That's a practitioner could be a CMO. It could be
the digital manager. It
could be anyone who just manages the marketing budget essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone who understands Google Ads, someone who understands Facebook Ads, someone who understands Google Analytics. Set that up. You need Google Analytics in place for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say a CRM. For your businesses.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, HubSpot, whatever it happens to be. Those two things are a great place to start.
Yeah.
So tracking your leads, your customers.
Yeah.
And then making sure Google Analytics is set up correctly. That's your base camp.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah. We use Zoho CRM.
Yeah.
Salesforce is really good. So I used to use Salesforce and worked in corporate.
Yeah.
But looking at the budget, I think I understand paying if you really need it, but Zoho does everything we need for us. It's our full ecosystem from sort of signing software to CRM to, you can use it for accounts. We don't use it for accounts anymore, but it literally can use it for anything, taking payments. It's really, really good.
It's an operational thing. Yeah. Insightly is a good product we've used in the past as a CRM.
Use Pipedrive.
Pipedrive, great product. We integrate with that.
That looks really, really simple as well. Pipedrive actually.
It is, yeah. It's good, yeah.
Zoho was quite simple, but when I seen your Pipedrive when we met a while ago, it looked really simple. Obviously, I've actually, from meeting you that time, I noticed you had like a Kanban view for your deals and your pipeline. I actually changed ours based on that. Because Kanban is really a bit like Trello, which is another product that we use. Yeah, sure. It's really easy to see sort of your sales cycle, which I thought was quite good. We actually changed because of that.
Well, that's how I like to see it. Because I'm simple.
I know. I am. No. I think most business owners are, because I think to bring it back to sort of being really simple and really straightforward makes it a lot easier when you're trying to do it. But anyway, I'm waffling on. So what I want to know, or what everyone wants to know watching this, is how you scaled from 0 to 7 figures. So how long did it take you roughly?
But to get to that, when we broke 1 million in recurring revenue?
Yeah.
It probably took us 6 years to get to that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
And at the same, bearing in mind that 6 years from founding the business, we had a prototype at that point with no revenue.
Yeah.
And we've monetized features along the way to get to that. I think if we'd have
add-ons.
If I was to, obviously it's a software product, so it's constantly in beta.
Yeah.
And any surplus revenue we've got, we allocate to another really good quality software engineer to help us to work through the roadmap quickly. So really it was probably quite linear. It was probably quite a linear revenue growth from going from zero and a cash burn.
Yeah.
You know, so we started in month one with like a 30K a month cash burn. So the first milestone is
break even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's stop burning cash before we
before you go out of business.
Before we run out of it.
Yeah, of course.
So that first 30K.
That 30K of cash burn, is that developers, obviously the overall software, you got to keep it running, put it in the cloud.
Yeah,
it's a mixture of sort of labor costs and sort of just general overhead.
Well, that's increased over time. So
of course
the hosting cost that you talk about is web built on Amazon Web Services. So, you know, you start off, it's essentially costing you nothing because you're not processing any data.
Yeah.
You know, that's costing us $25,000 a month now.
Just for your hosting costs.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And we've got one engineer just full time working on optimizing that environment, making sure there's no waste in that, for instance. But yeah,
I hope you're banging that on an American Express card, by the way.
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, and we
Good.
get the points. And then I don't use any of the air miles, but my business partner and his wife use them all. So
I think he owes you one then.
Yeah, they have a load of nice trips. And
if he's watching this, you get the next ones.
I'm just on podcast with you. I don't go on holiday.
You're playing paddle. That's your air miles, mate.
Yeah, that's it. But so the first sort of milestone was that getting to that 30K a month.
Yeah.
I think arbitrarily we had 50K a month as the sort of next one. And then once we
to break even or to start trying to turn a profit of some sort.
I think
obviously the way you've scaled.
Well, we didn't take anything out of the business until we probably got to £1 million of recurring revenue.
You've obviously had Epic New Me that's been paying you, a wage, dividend, whatever you want to. It's been paying you to live, let's say, and obviously you've been putting your money back in and throwing it back in and back in and back in. So you've got to the £1 million recurring revenue.
I'm personally in both businesses because I had to be.
Yeah,
my business partner was best just being in Ruler Analytics. You know,
is he more like the engineering brain? If that's real software brain?
He owns the roadmap, yeah.
Yeah.
He owns the roadmap, yeah. So he's working with the CTO. He's working with the head of development all the time. And he really likes that enterprise software environment.
Yeah, of course.
Rather than the client services type environment. But it was really important to have that first business. The first business is a great business that we still continue to want to grow. But it's like any accountancy firm or law firm would be. There's so many.
Yeah.
Digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of business you can grow with global customer base, and then they're not such a big target for acquisition, those sort of attractive things, if you like. So, working on both, making sure that we ran it super lean. Yeah. That old Bezos thing, live off the land, or was it a Phil Knight thing? I don't know. Just
probably one of them.
Being super lean.
Yeah, there's the lean startup by I can't remember his name.
Eric Ries.
That's it.
Yeah, it's good.
Blue cover. That's what I remember anyway. That's one I read. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, so just for us, it was just running it super lean and making sure that any cash that we had was allocated towards stuff that would move the needle on the business, not pay our bills.
Yeah.
Or pay our mortgage. So, really grateful for the fact that we've been able to keep the other business running, do great work and still grow that, albeit, not at the same rate, not at the same pace, with not the same addressable market. So it's not got
your market's turned from probably servicing clients in the Northwest, if I'm not mistaken, to servicing clients across the world.
That's right.
EMEA region, which is what one of my businesses leads in, does that. We service clients Europe, Middle East and Asia and America. And it gives you that addressable market, like you said, and it gives you that scale to grow. But obviously it's not easy to grow, to grow in that sort of market. You can't just do it.
Well, you're working against, we've probably got 4 competitors in the marketing mix modeling space, in the marketing attribution space.
So there's 5 in the world?
Yeah, 5 valid SaaS businesses. They're all better funded than us. But I think, obviously that's, we're talking about significant seed rounds, Series A, VC, Series B, from some good institutional investors. And what's interesting is it's always, we get approaches all the time. Well, we get approaches now for, trade buyers to buy our business because it's a great strategic fit for them. We're not quite ready to sell yet, in that we can do a lot more with the business. But what's interesting is it was, do you raise again in order to give yourself more dry powder to allocate.
And to be on a level playing field with the other guys, we were getting lots of funding.
And everyone would sort of say, well, certainly since, I think, sort of pre-2023, I'd say everyone was between sort of 2016 and 2020, 23, people were very keen to sort of raise money. And that was almost a goal in itself.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is, there is another side to doing it. Well, we refer to it as bootstrapping. So we did raise some seed.
That's what you did initially. Yeah.
Well, we're still a bootstrap business as far as the DNA of the business. We run that way. What's interesting about that is if you do raise money, then you're really under pressure to grow at any cost.
Yeah.
And I think the risk to that is you stop being quite as customer centric.
Yeah.
And as customer and client focused as you could be. So you start, maybe selling a product that you haven't quite shipped yet. You start selling outside of your core ICP, so your core ideal customer profile, because it comes back to that growth at any cost.
Yeah.
Your VCs, the institutions, they need to see that trajectory, because they need to see that 5 year, 6 year.
Normally the PE firms, they'll want to flip it 3 to 5 years and get a return.
Yeah, so you're building it. We've been lucky we're not building a business outside of it. We're not building a growth at any cost business.
No.
We're trying to build the best product. And if that takes us a couple of years longer than the competition, obviously you've got to retain in SaaS as well. Yeah. So recurring revenue is great. Both of our businesses are recurring revenue businesses, but you still have to retain if your churn is high.
Yeah.
So sell to the correct people.
Yeah.
And, making sure, that is a good fit. Service them well. Doing things that don't scale. People say, I only do things that scale. What's interesting, particularly as a SaaS business, so it's has to be very hands off.
Yeah.
People can sign up themselves, just put card payment details in. You don't have to touch them. You can have a, £100 million business with 20 staff. It's like the metrics aren't like, the unit metrics aren't like any other traditional business. I do like to have good customer success, good partnership managers, speak to your clients and customers, go and see them where possible. All these things that aren't very software.
Yeah.
Like those things that don't scale sometimes, ironically, are the things that do.
The thing I don't get, I'm veering off again a little bit here, but the thing I don't understand is a lot of these software companies, I'm not talking about any specific niche or industry, but you hear these companies are scaling to, multiple millions of recurring revenue, or just multiple millions of revenue, is when they're selling on mad valuations, but they're not making money. I don't know if you can shed any light on that. That's something that I never really understand, that why a lot of these PE firms or even firms from the same industry are acquiring these firms. I can only think they're acquiring customers and they want to sell them their products and cross-sell, upsell. But you see a lot of SaaS firms that are selling for like 12 times multiples, but not making money, if that makes sense, based on revenue.
In SaaS, but you see it in businesses outside of that too, don't you?
Yeah.
You see it in, you really saw the multiples even in the main markets, the public markets, like the big headline IPOs of kind of like late 2021, 22.
Yeah.
Incredible price to earning ratios. But also in businesses.
What were they, like 50 plus?
Yeah, you'd see stuff like that. So that's it. You've got to show a great trajectory of growth, tell a great innovation story. And a lot of the time it is, like you say, investors and stuff like that, whether it's, public markets or private markets, some of the time it's the greater fool thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they can, they're buying something as long as they can sell it on its way up.
Yeah, I just look at it because we're potentially on a bit of a buy and build journey at the minute, and I look at it and the way I look at buying a business. And again, we're an IT and telecom sector, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah,
but we would look at certain metrics, like we'd look at the EBITDA of the business. We'd obviously want it to be a positive EBITDA, even if we think we can strip a few costs out.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't pay mad valuations for a business, if that makes sense. I've always looked, and again, it's not your industry, it's just in general, I've always looked at it and gone, it's just mad when people are paying like 12 times revenue and stuff. You really go, how?
It's just, sometimes you get under the hood of these businesses, and that's when it's not just a pure financial buy.
And normally the there's a lot of debt as well in these businesses as well. Like they've got a huge amount of debt because they've got some sort of product.
Some of these can be quite strategic though, can't they?
Yeah, of course they can, yeah.
You never really know, do you, how they could.
No, and again, it could be a case of we know they need our product and we're buying the customer base for that reason. But my brain's just going, there's an element of risk there that I don't like.
Well, you saw tons of it in 21 and 22, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then maybe 23.
And also interest rates were a lot lower then as well. And
yeah.
silly interest rates means they can borrow cheap, cheap money, and it's a lot easier to buy, I suppose, and there's less margin for error. I'm guessing.
Well, we saw it in SaaS, in small B2B SaaS.
Yeah.
So we'd see trade buyers acquiring businesses like our size, doing 1.5 million pounds of recurring revenue annually and getting 12, 13 times revenue. Those businesses with 50% cash up front.
Mad.
Good buyers as well.
I bet they are.
Good institutions, but I think we're back down to, obviously it's case by case. Every time it's an art,
also,
not a science.
If you've got 4 or 5 in your industry, and you can make yourself the best product. You've got a niche. You can sort of make your price in a way as well. I get that. It's just when you see a lot of these SaaS businesses just going for bad money. If
you've got a great business, why would you want to sell? I think that about my own.
Do you?
Yeah, well, because I really love the business.
Yeah,
I love
everyone's got a price.
I love the problem. Well, yeah, I'm a working class lad. I've never had any significant money, so it is important to be financially secure going forward.
Of course, yeah.
And and de-risk your family's life going forward.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah.
So people do have a price, yeah. And
I suppose if you're saying if you enjoy your job, your business, why would you sell if you're not going to get the right valuation? But
yeah, exactly.
I suppose I've always said, if someone comes in for the business and gives me what I think it's worth, I'm not going to sell it. Because why, like you just said, why would you? I suppose if someone's going to give you 2 or 3 times over that, then you've got a decision to make, haven't you? I suppose, as much as obviously I love all the business involved with, but I think everything that we do, and that everyone's got a price, and everyone will sell for, there'll be something that makes you sell, won't it?
Yeah,
but I suppose what you're saying,
especially if your business is going to the the correct buyer, so your team are going to the correct people. You're going to try your best to enjoy the next 2 years working for your new employer and those sort of things, making sure there's a good cultural fit and all that sort of stuff that that could work, or a larger company that you can learn from.
Yeah,
to me, our acquirer will probably come from the United States, and it'll be quite exciting working in that territory.
Yeah, especially if they're from Vegas.
Well, is that for you? Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I'm only joking. No, but that was the same when I sold.
Gambler.
No, just good party. I did my stag do in Vegas.
I've only been once, but what a place.
Yeah, incredible. But no, but when I sold part of Agility in 2022, and the reason I sold was actually not for money. It was for the guys that run it. So there's Mark, who runs it day to day, and there's George, who I've known since I was about that big, if the camera can see that. Yeah. And he knew my dad really well, and he's got a great business brain. He's got multiple businesses, all 7-8 figure businesses. And I did it, A, because they've got a great customer base that we want to obviously sell into and, provide our products and services, but B, to learn from them as well. Yeah. And what I've learned from them in the sort of 2 years we've been in bed together as such has been massive in terms, making sure that your management accounts are right, getting a proper finance team in place. We had a finance team in place, but it could definitely have been improved when I sold. And I sold for the wealth of knowledge that you gain from other people. Because, people will say they'll mentor you and give you help, and they will, but everyone's got a finite amount of time. And obviously until you're in bed together, that's when you see the real benefits of what people can bring and offer to your business. So I think if, like I said, obviously I've been for a partial sale, and again, the money was secondary. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to get a bit of cash off the table. That's great, but it's what you can learn from especially if they're a successful acquirer. And that's the reason I sold, not for money, but for the
learning on like really good quality corporate governance.
100%.
All of those things can be priceless. You can put chairman in place. Yeah. You can put non-execs in place. But as you say, it might be a really good quality non-exec. You might only speak to them for a couple of hours a month.
That's
and a couple of hours at the board, working closely with someone who's been there, done it, got the battle scars. Yeah. Been doing it for 40 years in your industries. Yeah. That's exciting, because we don't have mentors, do we? No. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, you start off, or as business people, and it's a lonely place, isn't it?
It's it's still lonely now. I mean, I did the YouTube video, and I can't remember which one it was, but I said you've got online and offline mentors, and an online mentor is someone like, for me personally, is someone like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Read that. That was the first business.
Read it. Yeah.
The first proper business book I read and went, wow, I've got to change, and I've got to pivot a little bit here. And there's offline mentors who have just mentioned there, other business partners or anyone that you've known, and luckily I've had both. Through the acquisition. My dad was in business. He was pretty savvy as well. Yeah. But getting those mentors it's really, really tough. But anyway, let's pivot on to you, because this is about you, not about me. So in terms of the investment that you've got, because you've got investment in your business slightly different to what I experienced, but it's from the European Investment Bank. So do you want to just talk through that, how it came about, how it's helped your business, and just the process really from how you raise finance in your business? Because I think a lot of people watching this want to know how they can raise money, because I think a skill in itself is raising money, because raising money is not as easy as it sounds. People don't just give you money. People want something in return and want to see something. So give us a bit around that. That'd be great.
Yeah. So, well, our experience was we were financing the development of this product within our first company. So again, we had surplus revenue. What were we going to do with that? We had this ideas, and we thought, let's set about trying to build this product. It became pretty evident. It probably took us over a year of trying to develop a product with, in hindsight, engineers who were substandard, only because it was what we could afford.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And for various reasons, we realised that we didn't have deep enough pockets to build this thing. We weren't trying to build a HR software or a really simple CRM. In hindsight, maybe we should have done something like that. We're building quite a complex.
You're in deep now. You've got to keep going.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, obviously we're happy now. We've built what we've built, but we knew we needed to, in order to keep the dream alive, we needed to raise money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we didn't want to raise like dumb money.
Yeah.
We wanted to raise from institutional money to start off with, and institutions that specialised in our area. So where we knew we could get some of that added value stuff. People who understood our domain and had that domain expertise.
Yeah.
So we raised money from a digital fund that's part of the European Investment Bank.
Right.
And gave away.
Posh name, European. I like that, European Investment Bank. So
Central European Fund. Is
that to do with the EU? Is that had any bearing on it, or is that just separate?
Separate. Yeah, that hasn't affected us. Yeah, they've been really good partners for us. Really good partners.
And do they own equity in your business, or is it debt, or how does that?
No debt. Work? Yeah. So I'll tell you the cap table. Yeah. So cool. There's two of us founded it. Myself, my business partner Ian. We're 50% in other companies together.
Sure.
We were 50% in this, and then we gave away, obviously created a new capitalization table, gave away 25% of the company.
Okay.
So pre-money, we were valued at 1.1 mil. How do you make up a valuation for this? But
a business is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
Opinion,
well, it wasn't even a business.
Yeah, it's a concept. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, so we gave away 25% of the company, created a 10% option pool, and I have 32.5% of the business.
Do you want to explain what an option pool is?
The option pool was something that was it's a way of incentivizing future management.
Yeah.
So
is this for the staff then that you've got now?
So for us, it's for key members of the team that we want to give skin in the game to.
Absolutely.
We want a reward for,
time served. Buy it for £1 and you get X amount.
That sort of thing.
Something like that. Yeah.
Doing it in a really tax efficient way for them.
Yeah.
So it's two things. So it's also rewarding people who are really integral members of the team.
Sure.
Members of the family, essentially. And also, it has helped us to attract really good quality people that we did want to hire.
Got you.
One member of staff in particular that we've got.
Yeah.
Who's a really valued member of the team now, the technical team, and it was important to have that.
I think one clever thing you've done there, which is something I'd always do. I told actually it was the guy who started Music Magpie. Do you remember the CDs you used to send in? And I went to
local business in Manchester. Business,
Manchester business, nice guy as well. And I got into I won the award, like the Inside of 42 under 42, and he did like a speech.
Yeah.
And one thing he said and he said this mistake he actually did. He goes, don't give away shares in your business, give away options. Because one mistake he made was he gave away shares, and obviously the people want to leave the business. Then he was a bit stuck.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
you have to buy him out, and you've got to agree a price. So if you give options, people have got to stay for a defined period, which will yield results potentially, or hopefully yield results, and it means you then obviously you pay your pound, you get your X amount % of shares. That was one bit of advice I took away from that speech you did, and I went, that is really good. So you've obviously done that.
The EMI scheme is quite it's the way to do it. Yeah. No, what you're saying is correct. Yeah,
it's clever.
Yeah, because exactly right. Yeah, if you've worked with someone for a long period of time, you understand what it's like to be in the trenches with them. So it's fine for them to then become your business partner because you understand their character. But I suppose if you're bringing in talent, based on talent, you're never quite sure.
And again, a lot of software companies do. If you look at if you watch the Social Network film, Facebook, everyone's getting shares left, right, and centre, aren't they? Which has obviously worked out well for everyone who's got them shares. And wish I was there, but it's the option agreements are really, I think, in business, are really, really key. If you're trying to give, even if you've got someone in the business who wants skin in the game, unless they're going to buy in, or if you think they can offer you some more value where they can bring on more business or grow your business in whatever way, options work really well because it means they can work for those shares in the business and also, acquire them for little amount of money, but they've got to have skin in the game in terms of time served, if that makes sense, and results, where giving away shares because you think they're going to be good doesn't really work that way unless they're going to give you cold hard ready.
You've got to de-risk it from your side, absolutely. For sure. And your investors and other investors and shareholders side,
No, absolutely. So no, that's really key. So, okay, so you've got so talk to me a little bit about gaining that investment then. So how have you actually gone about getting the investment from the European Investment Bank? So how did you do that? How did you raise it? What did you have to go through? That's really interesting for everyone watching.
Yeah, well, I suppose you go through a bit of a beauty parade, really. You kiss a lot of frogs, don't you? Like so many.
So how many other potential investors did you speak to before the...
Do you know what? Thinking back, probably spoke to quite a few. A lot of people start with their accountant, don't they? If you've got a good accountancy firm.
Who do you know?
Yeah, so if the accountancy firm does have good corporate finance department within it, obviously it's important to get a good accountancy firm.
Who's your accountant?
Well, we've got a couple actually. So, we've got an FD. We've got an FD and ruler.
Yeah, got you.
And he works with a company called UHY, Hacker Young.
Oh, yeah.
And then our accountants in Epic New Media, a firm called Moore and Smalley.
Oh, yeah.
And both have got good corporate finance,
good reputation as
partners. Moore and Smalley have got a really good corporate finance chap there called Andrew Feek, who's really been helpful to us as well. I've had some really good one-to-ones with him, but I think that's the key. Yeah, speaking to people who are raising cash, whether they're on the buy or sell side of a transaction. Yeah. Understanding who the funders are. Yeah. Who the family offices are. Who the good quality angel.
Family offices being high net wealth individuals who've got a load of cash that just want to invest. Is that what you mean by family office? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously there's some family offices that are the large institutions in their own right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That hundreds of millions of pounds to deploy.
Yeah.
The large angel networks. There's a lot of pitch opportunities, isn't there? For this sort of stuff. I mean, a thing that wasn't really, maybe it wasn't around in the same sort of, to the same degree. Crowdfunding and things like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of options open to us. I think we were quite lucky in that people like the idea early on. They liked the idea and they liked the fact that we'd spent our own money.
Oh, are you
trying to build this product?
Got skin in the game then.
We'd already spent a couple of years trying to build out a prototype, and it wasn't a pre-money business at the time. In hindsight, it was because we were selling a feature that we no longer have anymore.
Yeah,
but we'd put our money. We'd probably spent six figures of surplus from the other business
just
on engineering, on testing things, on building prototypes, on trying to get to that minimum viable product. We thought we were there. I was like, we've got MVP, got customers, got revenue. A couple of years later, you realise you were nowhere near product market fit or MVP.
Do you know what's funny, right? I remember, and this will relate back to you, but when I looked at, funnily enough, I looked this about 3 weeks ago, and I remember I wrote a 45-page business plan for Agility.
Yeah.
And I look back at it recently and just how much it didn't even follow the business plan. It just changed. It evolved. Evolved's probably the better word, isn't it? Yeah. Evolved so much, but also B, sort of, you look like, obviously we're obviously IT telecoms. We sell the suppliers that we were using, that we are using now. It just changed so much. So did you find from the prototype to now.
Wow, totally, yeah.
Not just the way it looks, but the way, like, what you're offering to customers, has it changed massively?
It's changed massively, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, we're in an innovative space, and obviously
everything changes all the time.
Yeah,
it does in our space. I can only imagine in your
so
space
many,
even more.
so many moving parts. But you really thought this was a couple of features we could sell to the smaller businesses for $99 a month.
Yeah,
you think, oh great, I'll get 1,000 of those.
Yeah,
brilliant. That'll be my first 100K a month. And now we're selling a really enterprise level software.
well, you got a higher price, but
We're selling a platform now, for on average a couple of $1,000s a month.
Yeah.
On annual contracts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's changed a lot as we've added features.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, you need to monetize the early features
yeah, of course you do.
as you to give yourself the cash to continue to build out the roadmap.
And in the marketing business leads in, which was my two business partners run day to day, we did the exact same, where we went from sort of selling stuff at say a couple $100 a month, to sort of going to, I think their average sale now is about $3,000 to $4,000 a month, whereas so it's going more high ticket. Sure. Because obviously you got less customers but more revenue, but probably less hassle, if that makes sense.
That's exactly right. We found exactly the same thing. So moving from being an SME, a B2B SaaS product selling into the SME, to as the product has become more sophisticated and solved a broader set of problems, we're selling to the mid-market, upper mid-market and enterprise.
Yeah.
So the annual deals are great, aren't they, Al? Because you get the cash up front.
Yeah.
Which is great cash flow for small businesses like ours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you can use that to grow. The capacity to churn is lower.
Yeah.
Because you're selling into a better organization.
Yeah.
More sophisticated organization. They understand their needs better.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're selling into the smaller business, they can be quite entrepreneurial and it's almost the worst type of people to sell into, aren't they? People like ourselves, because you're testing things, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We've always found it's quite a broad church, but I'd say larger customers in some respects can be less work than smaller customers. Even though the product that we sell, is probably more time to implement, install, etc. And I'm talking about the telecoms business now. Yeah, it's actually less work sometimes dealing with a large customer. The upfront work's normally a lot more, but once it's in and it works well. But I want to go back to just the investment. So European Investment Bank.
Yeah,
you've got in front of them. What was the process from pitching to gain an investment? Because I think that's really important about raising this finance. So what did you do? What did you have to do?
I mean, technical due diligence. So
that's what they did.
Yeah. So they bring in their technical team.
Yeah.
To essentially interview us and get under the hood of our software. So get into the all the source code, all the code repositories. Yeah. Understand if this thing was built, the early version of the product was built correctly. Yeah. Understand our product roadmap. Is it technically viable? And the infrastructure that we were planning on building it on, is that viable? Cultural fit and chemistry, of course. Do we like them? Do they like us?
Of course, yeah. Big.
Track record.
I take it you like each other.
I think, well, I like them. Yeah. That's what I said. What they think about me.
Maybe they can comment and let us know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do.
No, they're really good, very good people. Management consultants.
Yeah.
Sort of working with sophisticated businesses, and they bring a lot to the boardroom each month. But I think there's art and science in it, isn't there?
Yeah, of course.
We size of the addressable market.
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
Yeah.
How are you going to attack that market? What are your roadmaps like as far as technical developments and sales and marketing? Like you say, like your 45-page business plan for that first business of yours or the second business of yours. Yeah. It's you write this sort of stuff. It's important to write, and then 6 months down the line, it's changed significantly. But you've both got to take a risk on each other, take a chance on each other, and that's kind of what it was: a mix of art, a mix of science, and then and sort of jumping off the cliff, really.
Yeah. And when you got the investment then, so how did that, well, firstly, how did it impact you and your business partner? Yeah. Personally, but also secondly, how did it sort of kick the business on? Because I I'm assuming that it did kick the business on getting that investment.
Well, we created new, exactly right. Yeah. Created Nuco. All of a sudden you've got two different businesses. You start off by hiring
so you need a better resource then, essentially. So you need the better engineers, more engineers. Yeah.
So we brought in our CTO straight away, Mark, who's still with us. Someone we'd always wanted to work with, but couldn't afford to work with him.
So does he work for the business, or does he work for himself and you just pay for his time? How does that work with Mark?
Yeah.
He's directly employed by the business.
Yeah, exactly right. So he started working for the business. Now he's a little bit more hands-off, actually, within the business development team that we've sort of evolved into. Sort of our head of development and the people that sort of own the roadmap. They're a different team now, but Mark is still within the business.
Yeah,
and he still has equity in the business.
Oh, great!
Because he was there since day one. He was our friend who was there, ready to take that journey with us.
So he's part. Is he options or equity? Is he got an option, or was it an option?
We actually did vest him equity, because it was a promise we made.
Promise you made
early on, yeah,
fantastic.
I think the cash, it gave us the opportunity to start Nuco instead of spending the money from
surplus
business
funds.
A into business B. Instead of spending 5 or 6K a month, and
it's de-risked. More of a cash boost.
Fudging along, trying to spend, and then
probably cutting corners a little bit.
We've done a bit of that. Yeah. At the time, it's being able to spend 30K a month. It felt like Christmas Day, But then obviously you realise it's nothing really. But that enabled us to break the inertia. That was the key.
Yeah, break
the inertia, get traction, start to iterate, learn, market, sell, develop. Learn an awful lot along the way, and then get to the stage where we can either raise again, which we decided not to do, because you can get deal fatigue. These things are, raising money is a tiring process. If you don't really need to do it, then why do it? Just push your timeline out a couple of years. Have a little bit of patience. Have a little bit of patience. As long as you can stay alive sometimes, that's okay. You've got time in the market and time to let the developers do their thing and build out the product you want.
It's probably the good thing. I'm assuming your business partner is very similar in terms of you've got patience, and that's good to have patience. That's something I definitely struggle with. I love lack of patience, and I need it now. But that's something I'm working on.
Well, it's a weird little.
But it's good that you have that, because
it's a weird juxtaposition, though, isn't it? Because you've got patience with an incredible sense of urgency as well.
Yeah,
playing those two things over each other, isn't it?
It's a skill. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's a skill. So what advice would you give anyone watching this, listening to it, in terms of starting a business from scratch? Obviously, you've started Epic from scratch and Ruler from scratch, actually, as well, even though they were sort of symbiotic in a way. So what advice would you give to anyone starting today to try and get from, even if it's 0 to 100 grand a year and then 0 to 7 figures? What advice, one bit of advice that you'd give? Starting
your own business.
Yeah.
I think it's, maybe don't do it. It's a bit of a strange
Go
thing.
on, why?
Well, it depends what day I get asked that question. It'll be the same for you. So I think it's, you can be a great entrepreneur within a good organization, can't you? I have friends who work in FTSE 100 businesses, and some of my fraternity brothers and university pals that work in Fortune 500 businesses in the States, or even significant like family businesses, regional businesses, and they have healthcare, they have holidays, they have, company perks, they've got defined hours of work, they're guaranteed a salary, they're working within an organization with a defined organization 100%. Chart, and they can see the progression, company pensions, share schemes, these sort of things. And it's, entrepreneurship isn't, or going into business for yourself isn't like the necessary, needs to be like the North Star for everyone. But my advice would be, it's kind of the stuff you got to be super resilient. You got to surround yourself with the correct energy. Yeah. Good quality, loyal people.
Yeah. Hard to find loyal people, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be one yourself. Yeah. Start off with, you got to have all these attributes yourself and work on these attributes. You got to really have the energy. You're a very high energy guy. So you're thinking about this stuff all the time. I see your Whoop data. we've got a group, haven't we? I see your
Yeah.
Whoop data. You don't really sleep too much.
No.
But your data's still good. Your heart rate's still
By
good. Your
the
heart
way,
rate
if anyone's
variability.
watching this, pan to the camera now. This is a Whoop. And Dan got me onto the Whoop, actually. I've looked at it in the past. I used to have an Apple Watch, but I like wearing a normal watch, so it didn't really work for me. And it shows everything from like heart rate variability, which Dan's got a really high HRV, which means, I think it means you're dead fit, basically, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
I think so. I think it was like 100, man's like 60. I shouldn't be saying that, should I? I'm trying to get up to 70 anyway.
Yeah.
Producer Calvin's laughing at me saying this, thinking I'm really unfit, but anyway.
But back to the point that the attributes, the attributes you need, one of the key attributes you've got, and you've got more than me, I can see from the time we spent together, you're very high energy, which is great. That's, you're gonna have to have that,
You can burn out from that though. Just to be clear, you can burn if you're too high energy like me. And until I've sort of put structures and processes in my business, I remember I used to get to every Christmas and like I'd be like burnt out, ready for it. Where now I'm not, because I put structures in place. If you're too high energy, you don't delegate well enough. That can be a big problem in your business as well. And I found that for me, I was burning out or even periodically, I was just burning out.
Yeah. But patience, the ability to delay gratification.
Absolutely.
Delaying gratification is huge. So many people extract too much from their own business early on or at any stage, and that's hampering your ability to grow, hampering your ability to, the business has got to be first, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to treat this.
Absolutely.
You've got to treat this living thing, this organization, as it has to eat first, and your staff and your team do. And people quite often think, oh, great, you're working for yourself, you must be doing really well. You think, well, this business is doing really well. I don't even extract anything from it yet.
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
That's the key. And that
patience, delayed gratification, energy, all these sort of things.
No, yeah, and that brings me nicely on to, and we can both chat about this, but it's more question for you than me.
Yeah.
Is about personal finance. Obviously on the channel, I speak a lot about that, and I'm going to do a lot of videos about that.
Great.
Just because it's something I enjoy. I know you enjoy it as well. And, part of my French, you don't piss your money up the wall as well, which, in my 20s I did when I was a high-end salesperson. I used to just bought like an M4 and I was a weekend millionaire, basically. I've stopped all that shit now. But it's good in terms of personal finance then. So obviously running, a successful business is one thing. And obviously you've hit the $1 million recurring revenue. Great. I assume you're taking a bit out of the business now anyway, and we'll go into detail on that. But in terms of what else do you invest in? Obviously, one thing I've mentioned on the channel before is about you can put it all back in. And I think at the start, you've probably got it. And I did, by the way, as well. I didn't pay myself much money. Don't think I paid myself the first 9 months when I started my business, Agility. But there's come a point where you've got to try and de-risk a little bit, and I assume. So what else, what do you have interests in terms of personal finance? What do you invest in?
Yeah.
And again, this isn't a channel for recommending investments. It's more just to tell everyone what we're doing. So tell us what you're doing.
There's two things, isn't there? Yeah. So we can talk about like how money is allocated. Obviously within, as a company director, the stuff you would have talked about, limited company,
dividends and
exactly right. Yeah. Dividends each year, we would allocate that into it's stocks and shares ISA, but dollar cost averaging into index funds. That really vanilla stuff people know about. S&P 500 index funds or something that's maybe global, but main market stuff, as diversified as you can be, as low cost as it can be, as tax efficient out of your business. I think that's a great way to do, because people want it. I know other people that use the SERP. There's so many answers to this question. It's probably the personal finance thing starts off. We start off with that first. So live well within your means. If your overheads are X, and your income is Y, and your income becomes Y plus 1, doesn't mean that your overheads have to become X plus 1. Yeah. Keep them at X as much as you can, or make them X plus 0.1. Yeah. And with each unit of increment of growth, you've got to do that. Don't let lifestyle creep. People understand the principle of compound interest.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talk about that all the time, the snowball effect, and I've done videos on that, and launched a video about why wealth accelerates from 100k. And obviously, it's the snowball effect.
Yeah, of course, the big Charlie Munger thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think big old Charlie, rest his soul, gets a mention on that. But I was going to ask you then. So I mentioned in one of my videos about the 50, 30, 20 rule, which you might have heard of.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So 50 cents, obviously.
20 savings.
20 savings investment. I hate the word savings because I think if you're saving money, it needs to be invest. I always say invest, because if you're saving money now, inflation erodes it.
Yeah.
But 50, 30, 20, but obviously as you make more money, you've just mentioned about, and I'm going to ask you what you think your sort of split is here, but when you make more money, what you should do is not stick to 50, 30, 20, but you should actually change it a little bit. So I know for me at the minute, and I'm going to roughly speak, I think I'm probably about 25% needs, as in like house, mortgage, I could probably buy a bigger house, but I want to save more money.
Sure.
I'm probably actually around about 25% wants. So, holiday, maybe cars go through the business. Actually, they don't even count. They go through because it's tax efficient to do it that way.
Yeah.
But, holidays, clothes, whatever. It used to be a lot worse than that, as we talked about before about my t-shirts. But and then 50% in investments. And that's literally, I think I'm 25, 50 at the minute.
Oh, great.
At the minute I am, because I'm trying to really ramp it up for 10 years and then get the passive income from likes of ISAs and properties. So what would you say, what do you roughly do? And what would you recommend from a business owner's perspective?
What we do within the business to start off with.
Oh, do you? So that's interesting.
Yeah, well, it starts with that, doesn't it? So for us, it's making sure that we're building up the cash surpluses within the business. So, people say, you need to make sure you've got, 6 months of run rate if all revenue turned off.
Yeah.
Listen, our revenue's not going to turn off, but we keeping 2 years worth of cash.
That's good. That's really good.
The first, do you know what happened in March 2020 was a real major react, because it was the first time we'd had a contraction in revenue.
Yeah.
Because people paused things in both businesses.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because of what happened back then. So you realized that you wanted to make sure you had that run rate in case anything, very random could happen.
Yeah.
So those sort of principles within the business, making sure there's a surplus.
Yeah.
At all times. And then I think, personal finance wise, it always used to be, what was it? The Babylon story.
Where the
richest man in Babylon. That was always 10%, wasn't it?
George Clayton. I read that recently.
Yeah. George Clason.
Clason, sorry.
Yeah, that was a great book. I read that when I was younger as well. It was that was always 10%.
About 3 months ago, I read that.
Yeah. You got a really nice little story, just simple principle, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they talked about 10%. I think it needs to be at least more like 20% now, doesn't it? You kind of act after tax sort of savings, if you like.
Yes.
And as you say, making sure you're allocating them to,
low cost index funds. Like you said,
we've got pals who are a little bit. I'm not sure what your sort of risk profile is. I know people extract money from the business and kind of really work it hard. They don't want to be putting it into index funds with, Vanguard or Fidelity. They're not doing the Jack Bogle thing. They can't even think about that because they really need to work their capital hard because they've got aspirations for, silly numbers. Obviously, you've got, I think that the risk reward thing, it's relative, isn't it?
I know with me personally, what I do, when I extract money out of the business now, if we were going to, that risk profile is probably, if we're going to do acquisitions of other businesses, for me, that's a higher risk. I mean, you can de-risk it to an extent, but it's high risk. But for me, I extract into property, into a limited company, SPV. So anyone doesn't know what an SPV is, that's a special purpose vehicle, which is just for buy-to-let, holding buy-to-let company. Yeah. And then obviously, just like you said, maybe not just index funds, sometimes managed funds, which, they cost a bit more.
Yeah, actively managed mutual funds.
By the way, for anyone watching, index funds actually do outperform the market over time over managed funds. Yeah, they do. I just like a dabble sometimes, to be honest with you.
I get that, yeah. What's interesting about the index fund piece, because everyone's about that low-cost index funds and they outperform active management. But what happens when everyone's indexing? Does that give more of an arbitrage opportunity for the active manager?
Maybe. I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to say I know. I just.
But you're doing the right thing. You're saving 50%. After your needs and your needs and your wants, and you're putting that capital to work, which is just, it's great. Well, it's taken you a while to be able to do that, hasn't it?
Yeah, oh God, it's took me
to have. You've got kids.
That's took me about
wife, family.
Yeah, that's probably took me that. Well, business lifetime. It's took me 6-7 years to get there. Probably since I sold the business, I started doing.
I just like the idea of doing things that compound. It sounds super cliche, doesn't it? But it's we're talking about it like not drinking. Because what does drinking really do for you? It's a great social lubricant. It's an opportunity to have a shared experience with someone else. Big part of our culture is.
Yeah. So do you not drink now?
I was near to teetotal as you can be.
Right.
Like I was best man at a wedding and drunk. Just joined in, and that was like one drink like last year.
And you had one?
No, I got drunk.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah,
I did that, but for me, it's just all these, drinking is an example of it because
it's a negative compounding effect, isn't it? If we're going to be really honest.
You pay a premium for it.
Of course you do, yeah.
It degrades your health aggressively.
Yeah.
And then it degrades the following days, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're eating the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're not training effectively in the correct way. And then they really do start to compound. And then all of a sudden you can have these lines start to, you get a divergence, don't you?
Yeah.
And your trajectory.
Yeah.
You allocating money, unless it's a great business development tool for you or a relationship building tool and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
Just those little, that's just it's an example of the things where you can find that Dave Brailsford, you can find those little marginal gains everywhere you look, can't you? You can find those marginal gains and they really lead towards, they can really lead towards really outsized outcomes, can't they?
Yeah. It's definitely a negative multiplier or compounding effect drinking.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, if I go and watch Liverpool in Europe, I'm fully getting on it and having a lot of bevies. So that's just the way it is, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I limit it now completely. When I was like 26, 27 working in sales, it was every weekend, out. But yeah, I don't drink anywhere near as much now. And as you get older and you have kids, you get wiser. I'm sure when you were in your 20s, you've drunk a lot more. It's just an evolution, really, isn't it, I suppose?
It's where you found...
Especially when you run a business as well, because the worst thing is when you have a heavy weekend, you go in on Monday, you're definitely not on it. I can...
Well, it's nice to have hobbies that, if it's a really enjoyable hobby, people are into wines and whiskies and all the rest, and they enjoy it, all the rest of it, or whatever it happens to be. I like to have... I just like the idea of efficiency.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got too much logic in our lives now because we've got a software company and everything is about logic, ones and zeros and if statements, if this, then that, we become quite logical, but efficiency it can be so exciting in that, you have hobbies that serve two purposes. You can have fun doing them, but they also give you another gain, which might be a health gain or a fitness gain that compounds in that way. And if you can turn that into something that helps you to socialize and build meaningful relationships as well.
Yeah.
You go and work out together. Yeah. Play paddle together. Do things that have multiple positive effects. They're enjoyable. Yeah. Great for your health. You build meaningful relationships. Yeah. These are great activities.
Well, here's the last question for you before we wrap it up then. Because obviously we talked about you going from 0 to 7 figures, gaining investments, all being really, really good stuff and personal finance as well. Yeah. Do you think paddle's going to be the new golf for business?
Well, it's just well, yeah. Well, why would it not be? Yeah. So I play golf as well.
I'll tell you why I think it.
It's more time efficient.
Yeah. Well, you just answered my question.
More time efficient. You actually get something from it in that you get. There's a moving ball, so there's cognitive benefits to tracking a moving ball. You actually move your feet.
And
in golf you don't.
Those who play racket sports live on average 9.7 years longer.
Yeah, it's in that data. Yeah, it's in that
9.7 years longer.
Interesting. Yeah, with all other things being equal.
Said, it's the moving ball and the mind.
Yeah, the cognitive benefits of it just seem to be. Everyone's talking about. Everyone's trying to build paddle.
Fastest growing sport in Europe. Yeah,
there's planning applications in everywhere to build these super paddle centers. But yeah, all these little things. Yeah, in answer to that question, yeah, I mean, I'll continue to play both. The only negative side is,
go on.
You've always got to find that 4 with golf. If it's last minute, you can find 3. Yeah, or a 2 ball. Yeah, you've always got to find that.
Same with tennis and table tennis, which I play. I used to play tennis as well. You can have singles in both, but paddle, you have got to find 4 people.
A paddle court in our offices would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, we've got a table tennis table in our office, but paddle court would be different level. Yeah, table tennis table's great, but we got a dartboard, but paddle court would just be
brilliant.
I'd need a bit of land for that, and I think you need all sorts of planning permissions because the acoustics and the ball bouncing. So I don't think it's as easy as a table tennis table, but it'll be brilliant. But I think it will turn into the new golf. Like I said, it's more accessible. It's probably cheaper as well, actually, if you think about it. Yeah. I know some paddle courts in London you're paying 50 quid an hour, but if you compare it to golf memberships and stuff, it probably is cheaper as well. I think it's less time, and I think if I started playing golf as well as paddle, I'd be divorced because I'm now. My wife said she's a paddle widow from now on.
And it's so much more accessible.
Yeah,
isn't it? So much more accessible. Yeah. Everything's underhand. People,
Yeah.
with it.
And I think also from playing tennis to a decent level, for people who are just starting out, if you've got a business and maybe from this podcast we start a paddle corporate networking event. Who knows? Maybe we can do it. If anyone wants to do it, just comment and let me know. But I expect it'd be in the Northwest area, by the way. But yeah, it's a lot more accessible, and also from playing tennis to a decent standard, the sweet spot on the racket's a lot a lot bigger. So I think literally anyone has got semi-hand to eye coordination can play paddle.
Can enjoy it.
Anyone with tennis, it's different. So, well, anyway, we'll wrap it up there. Dan, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. And for everyone watching this, as always, please like and subscribe if you want to hear more of my content on personal finance, business and entrepreneurship. And let me know what you've learned from this video as well. We've gone from 0 to 7 figures to investment in your business from the European Investment Bank, which is a sexy name. I quite like that one, to personal finance as well, from investing your cash when you can pay a dividend. And obviously it took Dan a good 6-7 years. It took me, probably a good 6 or 7 years as well, to start really investing and getting to that 25 to 50. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.